Okay, so now we are officially being recorded, everybody. So good morning. It says you are recording this meeting, but sure let everybody know you're being recorded. Okay, everybody, we are recording. So whatever you say from this point on is public knowledge of anybody who watches this. Good morning. I'm super excited to see you all. And for the first time in well over a year, I am teaching the 3-part listing appointment, how you win in a competitive situation. This is a course that we as a region have been teaching for years through the management team. And so it wouldn't matter if it was me or Jeff Talani out of Elk Grove or some of the others, you'll get the same content. We probably all approach it slightly differently, but it's the same general process. And it wouldn't matter if you were taking a listing class from Tom Ferry, Brian Buffini, Chris Leader, or many of the other trainers out there. All of the processes are very, very similar. So when you hear me talk through what I'm advising you to do, it isn't just what Coldwell Banker or Jennifer is recommending. If you went to any professional trainer, very few of them are going to give you differing advice. The words might be slightly different. The questionnaires we provide you might be slightly different, and you can use substitutions. But what I'm providing today is what I have provided for a number of years and things that I've used in my own business when I was selling actively. All right. So let's get started. So Keith Cook, our field marketing specialist, is going to assist me today. Keith, can you take your, I can't see you. Do you have your camera on?
No, I had it turned off. I was just waiting.
Good morning. So everybody say hi to Keith. If you haven't had a chance to meet him, he's been with us for a few months. And we are fortunate to have him supporting our Sierra Oaks office. He's been a breath of fresh air because he comes with a lot of strong expertise in many areas, but from outside our industry, which is always something that is fun when someone comes into a new industry and they have all these great ideas to help us grow our mindset. So I've been learning a lot from Keith, as have many of the others on our team. He's going to be my seller today. So I'm going to pull, Keith, before we start that part, let me pull up very quickly. Just a very quick introduction. So like I said, I'm doing more of a whiteboard approach today. It's not going to be a bunch of pretty slides with graphics and everything else. But this program this week, next Friday, and the week after are 3 steps to winning a competitive listing. And one thing you need to have is a very short, I always say scripted, and people don't like that word sometimes, but you need to be somewhat scripted so you say it the same time every time and don't get tongue-tied in uncomfortable situations. You need to be able to explain to a client the job of an exceptional agent. And just so you know where this came from, many years ago, our president went out and interviewed numerous top listing agents across the state of California within Coldwell Banker. And he took copious notes, and he asked each of them the same question. If you had to describe in a nutshell what you think the job of an exceptional agent is, I'd like you to tell me. And many of them would just talk on, and he would just get all these notes. So he took all these notes from these various agents, and when he finished, he sat down and reviewed them. And these 3 things came to the top of every single conversation. The job of an exceptional agent is threefold. It's marketing, negotiation, and transaction management. It's like a 3-legged stool. And this is an analogy to help a client understand, right? So a 3-legged stool, if one of your legs is weak, what happens to it?
Tip over.
That's right, it tips over. What happens in a real estate transaction if you are not strong in your marketing to help create a buying frenzy, if at all possible, or if you're not strong in your negotiation skills on the front end and throughout the transaction, or if you're not strong in transaction management, what goes wrong for that client? I know one of you can answer this. If you're on mute, you have to take yourself off.
Success.
What was that?
No success.
No success. I mean, your deal either doesn't happen or it falls apart once you get into the deal more often than it would if you have a strong agent in each of these areas, right? So an exceptional agent needs to be very solid and strong in each of these areas. So step 1 of winning a listing presentation is conducting a pre-listing interview or a pre-listing questionnaire with that client before going on the listing appointment. Now, many of you have gone to see your physician or someone else who's a professional who's going to offer a plan of treatment or a diagnosis. Do they ever prescribe the drugs and the diagnosis and send you in for some kind of surgery or treatment before they understand what is needs to be treated? Have you seen that? Or do they usually go through a long list of questions and try to identify what's going on with you?
Yes, the latter.
The latter. You guys need to look at yourselves as a physician. You are not just someone coming in to wham bam, get a listing and show them how great we are. When you do it in the latter way and don't ask all the right questions on the front end, you're not creating the best scenario for yourself or for the client. You want to be viewed as the expert, the exceptional agent. And I would assume that you all do, correct? I'm going to take this down. And now we're going to be more interactive. All right, before I upload anything else, does anybody have a question about the job of an exceptional agent part or feel that we're off base on that? Because it's open for discussion if you don't agree. No, you guys aren't ready. This is not an interactive class. I need to be in front of you in a room. I am so used to doing this. This is the first time I've done this on video. So guys, be kind. All right,
Janet,
so what?
Janet, may I say something?
Yes.
On the marketing side, I have noticed that there's a conflict sometimes between how we understand the marketing and the kinds of things that the tools that we have that enable actually the success and what the clients understand. So like I've lost listing because I lost the listing because the owner of the property said she thought that that second agent understood more what marketing is, and then I tried to get into it, and then I finally found out that that person was promising her more money and I was promising her realistic results, and that's how she understood, you know, marketing. So I think that's something that I just wanted to mention, that that's something that whole word marketing is just very often misunderstood or defined completely differently among different people.
So when we get to next week, we're going to spend a lot of time on how you explain that to the client and how that conversation goes, okay? But what I want to say is I would agree with you. You're absolutely right. And you need to be able to articulate this in a way that is exceptional compared to the competition. You can't just go in there and wing it, you guys. And if you're doing that, you're going to have a 50-50 shot of not winning that thing. I hate to tell you. So, but again, we're not going to cover that in detail today. Lee, I love that you turned your camera on. Do you agree with what I'm saying? You have to be able to articulate this.
Yes, I want to be a little interactive, and I'm sorry I'm driving, but I think those three, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I think those three things are spot on, and they need to just roll off our tongue. And one of the best ways to do that is just by yourself, stand in front of a mirror and just go through it as many times as you have to until it feels natural in front of a client.
That's right. When I first heard this, it was said to me by my president, and he said the job of an exceptional agent is threefold. It's marketing, negotiation, and transaction management. And then he told the scenario of the three-legged stool. It's like a three-legged stool. If one leg is weak and it falls over, what happens? And then we all said, well, it falls over. I mean, it doesn't work. He says, that's what happens in real estate. Would you agree? And we all went, uh-huh. He had it down. We all sat there and went, oh my God, I can't say that. And you know what? I came home and I did exactly what Lee just said. I practiced and practiced until it became me and I could say it because I didn't write this. I took it from someone else. So you guys, very few people use this stuff verbatim. I know you're all sitting here going, well, there's however many of you on the call. Let's see how many of you. There are 22 people on the call. If all of us do that and we end up competing with each other, we'll look ridiculous. I can promise you, even if you both said exactly the same thing one day apart, the client's not going to remember exactly what you said. All they're going to think is that person's sharp. They know their stuff and they get it. So Anne, you have your hand up before I move on to the next section. What do you have?
Well, I just wanted to comment about that. So a listing that I had, when I took the listing over, it had been with a different agent for 3 months and he had not sold it. I went in there and I told her all about the services using Listing Concierge, and we sold it in 3 days. And she said, wow, What a difference. Now, the gentleman used to be with our office and went out on his own. And she said he did not have any of this behind him, because I talked about offices and being on television and Facebook pages and Coldwell Banker connections and all of the other offices we work with. And guess what? It was an agent from Better Homes and Gardens that sold the house. So, I mean, it was like perfect case by case.
So you better get that client to give us a testimonial. Seriously, you need to get one.
I have one. Yeah.
Good. That's awesome. All right. So then we're going to move to the next step, because before you get to the marketing and the presentation and all that stuff you're going to talk to the client about, you need to be the good doctor, and you need to do your pre-listing interview or your pre-listing questionnaire. So don't skip it. This is what I've heard agents say over the years. And keep in mind, I've been doing this 20 years this year, you guys. When I started, I was taught this same process, not the exact words about the job of an exceptional agent, because that came later. But this pre-listing process is something every sales trainer in real estate has been teaching forever. You need to be the one who does this, and don't skip it because it's your best friend, or because it's your family, or because it's someone that you know you just have it in the bag, so you don't think you need to do it this time. Because, okay, we have enough people on the call. I want someone to tell me that you've gone out on an appointment that you were sure you had in the bag, and then when you showed up, they went, well, actually, I am talking to at least one other agent. Who has that happened to? Raise your hand or speak up. Mona? Anybody else? It's happened to Tara? I got a ton of hands going up. It happens all the time. I'm sitting in my chair as the manager, and my heart breaks for you guys when you make that. I hate to say it, it's a mistake. It's a mistake to make. But once you make it once, hopefully you don't do it again. Do not go out there and skip this step that we're covering today. It seems so simple and so basic, but in my opinion, it's the most important step of the entire process, because it sets you apart from other people, and it puts you on a level that the competition, if they're not doing this step, doesn't do. And that client already has you in their head elevated above the competition when you've done this. So let's pull it up and get to it.
Jennifer,
Keith, you ready?
Can I say something too?
Yes. Who? I'm sorry.
This
Who is it?
Michelle.
Yes, Michelle.
So not only, I'm not yet officially in real estate, but not only are you able to diagnose better, but when you go through this process in all sales function, this is when the client starts selling themselves on the need for your services as well.
And it helps you to position yourself, which sounds very salesy, but it's not. It helps you to know when you do finally meet with them, where you're going to focus your time and attention in that meeting. Because if you don't do this process and you don't understand all their answers and really delve into where their head's at in advance, you're walking in blind, and you're just going to be covering everything. And when you try to cover everything, do you keep people's attention, do you think? How well can you keep someone's attention if you try to cover everything in the world that's of value? Anyone?
Not only can you
Very small.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's right. Two of you spoke up. It's totally fine.
I was gonna say, if you're gonna try and cover everything, you're gonna lose them. It's gonna be
It
dull.
happens a lot. And I know we have such great stuff, but you don't want to go into detail on everything. You want to figure out what's important to that client, and then you gloss over the things that are not critically important to them, that aren't going to make a difference to them. Does that make sense? So let's figure out what's important to this client. Keith, you're my seller. You've got to come off mute. I'm going to pull up the pre-listing questionnaire so you guys can see it. You're not going to see all of the pretty faces on the screen, but you're going to see, hold on. There, can you guys see this?
No.
No.
I see nothing.
No.
See
What
what?
did I do? Hold on, let me try again. I probably did it wrong. Go boom, desktop. I probably just missed a step. Let's try one more time. Is that better?
There we go.
There, I missed a click or something. All right. So this is one version of a pre-listing questionnaire. It happens to be one that I really like. But again, if this is not your cup of tea, go out and Google and go to the different trainer websites. And I have some other versions that I keep in a folder and review them. And I remember when I was an agent, I wanted to make mine a little different than everybody else. So I took 2 or 3 and I made my own from them. But you need to have a consistent pre-listing questionnaire or pre-listing interview that you go through every single time, and keep it with you at all times. Because sometimes when you get a listing appointment opportunity and you call to make the appointment, Are they there all the time the first time you call when you get referred to someone, or do they call you back? They call you back, right? So if you're driving down the road and you have a few of these in a folder stuck between the passenger seat and your center console, you can literally pull into the nearest parking lot if they're a hard person to get hold of. And I used to do this, guys. I'd have a pencil or a pen sitting there and these in my car. And I would say, is this a good time to talk? I just need about 10 minutes to ask you a few questions. And you can say 20 or 30 if you, I don't know how long it takes most of you to get through this. For me, it was 10 to 15 minutes. So let's start. Keith, ring, ring.
Hello.
Hi, this is Jennifer Robinson with Coldwell Banker, and I'm just returning your call. I understand you're interested in interviewing Coldwell Banker for representation for selling your home. Is this a good time for us to talk? I need about 10 minutes to ask you some questions.
Yeah, I have a little bit of time right now.
Okay, perfect. If we decide to work together, this will help me know how to best serve you. So how did you hear about me?
I have a friend who worked with you in the past, and they referred you to me because I mentioned to them I was interested in selling my home.
Oh, well, do you mind if I ask who your friend is?
Joe Smith.
Joe, oh my gosh, I loved Joe. Joe was so great to work with. Well, I'll have to call him up and thank him very much. So super glad to hear that you were referred. Is there anyone, I went ahead and pulled some title information on your house. You had left the address on your message. I want to go through it and make sure I have all the right information. So it shows here that you are the sole owner of the house. Is that right, or have there been any recent changes that I may not have here in the tax records?
No, I am the sole owner of the house, so that is correct, yes.
Perfect. And now you guys, he can't see this, by the way. I'm having it up on the screen so you can all see it. I'm sitting there on the phone and he's just on the phone. All right. Now let me ask you, I called you on what looks like your cell phone. Is there another number that I should have to call you at, or is this the best way to reach you?
No, this will be the best way to reach me.
Okay, great. And when we set our appointment time in a few minutes, I'll want to make sure that we set up a time so that everyone that matters to you can be there. I realize you're the only one on title, but sometimes I find that people have other people in their lives that are important in the decision-making process. Is there anyone else like that for you?
No, not at this point.
Okay, perfect. That's all right. So it'll just need to be you and me at the appointment. Let me confirm the property address. I have it as 4327 T Street in Sacramento. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Perfect. And if I were to send you something by mail, would I mail it to the property address, or do you use a P.O. box?
I do have a P.O. box. You can have that address, but I'd prefer if you sent it to my house.
Okay, perfect. All right, got that. And phone numbers, we talked about this number. Do you, I don't know where you work, but do you have a work number or an email address that you'd like me to use for communication? Because I will need some kind of email.
Yeah, I'll give you my personal email. I'm a teacher at a high school, so I don't really have a work phone. So you can always reach me at this phone. My personal email is keithrocks@keithisawesome.com.
Keith rocks at keithisawesome.com. I love that. That's fun. All right. So you're a teacher at a high school. Do you mind? What do you teach?
I teach music theory. So
You do?
It's an advanced placement class.
I love that. So I actually play music and used to actually take music in college. I was a music minor. And I think that's fascinating. I loved music all the way through school. So what you do in my mind is extremely important, just as much as the other subjects.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. So does that mean you play music outside of teaching as well?
I do, yes. Yeah, I play why can't I think of it? Piano.
You do? Wonderful. So do I. Well, we'll have to chat more about that later. I just love music. I have kids that are actually taking music lessons as well. So it's a big part of our life.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So question, have you sold a home before, anything in the past?
Yeah, so I got divorced about 5 years ago, and we sold the house that we were in then. So yes.
All right.
I sold that property. And I had one property that I sold before that as well.
Oh, okay. So twice. So how did those experiences go? Can you tell me what you liked best and what you would like to have been different?
Well, I mean, I don't remember much about the last time because most of the focus was on the fact that I was getting divorced. But the first time, the agent that I was using, it was so long ago. The approach was kind of different. There was a lot less paperwork involved. So generally, I haven't really had an experience recently that I could cite as, being good or bad.
Okay. All right. So there really wasn't anything that went wrong and everything was
No.
okay.
Yeah, it
Okay.
went pretty smoothly. There was some paperwork that got stuck somewhere during escrow that made it last like an extra couple days, but it wasn't a huge deal at the time.
Okay, perfect. Well, glad to hear you haven't had any negative experiences. So in the tax records, which is what I have to go by right now, I'm going to tell you what it says your home is as far as beds, baths, square footage, that type of thing. And I just need you to let me know if it's accurate in your mind or if there's something different. So I show that you have a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 2,600 plus square foot house on about a 1/4 acre lot. Does that sound accurate?
There was another half bath added, and about 100 square feet added on in addition to that. The last owner did some renovations.
Okay, I'm making a note of that. So let me ask you, do you know if that was permitted? Did you find that out when you bought the house?
It was, yeah. The agent that helped me buy the house was definitely helpful. So
Wonderful. Now, do you have that information on file or is it something we could dig up because the tax records aren't reflecting it? So we want to make sure that we have something to document all of that.
I still have the number of the people who owned the house before me. I've only been here for 3 years, so hopefully their number is still the same. So I'll give them a call and see, but I don't have it on file now.
Okay, not a big deal, but it would be really nice if we did have the information. So see what you can dig up. Okay. All right. So tell me a little bit more about your home. What do you love? What do what's your favorite part of the house or the yard?
Well, so my favorite part of the house is the kitchen. When you walk in, it's like a really open floor plan, and the kitchen is huge, with granite countertops and like a brand new backsplash. Like I said, it's only like 4 years or 3 or 4 years old, so I really like that feature a lot. And then there are these really big windows that look out into the backyard, and there's actually a deck too. So it's a pretty nice situation. I really like it.
Nice. And the lot size is pretty good size. So is most of that space in the back or is it around the house?
Most of the space is in the back. It's like a really thin corridor or a really thin like corridor on the sides. You can just barely fit a trash can through there. But and this driveway is really short, small garage. So
a big backyard then. Nice.
Yes. Yeah. Well, as big as you can get with a 1/4 acre, right?
Right. That's pretty good size for the area you're in. I think it's going to be attractive to many people. So
it was definitely attractive to me.
So let me ask you, if you had to rank your home's condition on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being excellent, how would you rank it?
I would say we're probably at like a 7 or an 8 before like cleaning up. And then there is some maintenance that needs to be done, like plumbing wise in the next few years. When they did the remodel, they only did like the kitchen and like I said, they added a little bit of square footage towards like into the backyard. And the half bath is like brand new, but the other bathrooms, none of the plumbing or anything like that has been changed. And like I've been noticing some leaky faucets because it's all old pipes. The house is, older.
Okay. So based on what you just told me, if all of those things were done or fixed and the house were cleaned up, is there anything else you think would be needed to make it a 10? What would make it a 10?
Well, the roof's going to need to be replaced in like 6 years, but I mean, that's a pretty far way off. And it's not like 6 years and it has to be replaced. It's just I would replace it in 6 years. So other than like putting a brand new roof on it, like I think it would be at least a 10 at that point if we cleaned it up and staged it and fixed the plumbing.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, so you made this decision to move and we haven't talked about why you're moving, where you're moving to, and what your plans are. So what are you going to be
So right now I only get to visitation with my kids on the weekends because they go to school up in Folsom area, and it's just a long commute for me to take them to school. And because I teach at a school, I can't take them. So my ex-wife and I kind of worked out a deal where if I was up there, she could pick them up and take them to school from my house if they wanted to like come over on weekdays. So the goal is to spend more time with my kids.
Very nice. Now you say kids. How many do you have?
I've got 3.
3. Awesome. Do you mind if I ask what ages? I've got 2 at home still.
They're 12, 10, and 6.
Nice spread. I have 2 9-year-olds right in the middle of yours. So,
okay.
Well, would love to hear more later. I just I think that's great that you're moving to be closer and spend more time with them. So good for you. I think that in the end, you will be very happy with that decision.
That's the hope.
Yes, I can
they'll
tell.
be happy with it too.
Yes, I'm sure they will. So let me ask you, what's your timeline? Are you trying to be there by a certain time? Any kind of goal you're trying to meet there?
So because I'm a teacher, I'm hoping to not have to move in the middle of like a school week. It'd be nice if I could get, in a miracle world, because I've heard about how like volatile the market is right now, how active it is. It'd be nice if I could get this sold and move out during spring break, which is like the second week of April.
Okay.
That would be really great. I would also have to find a place as well, obviously. But other than that, if it doesn't sell immediately, then I'm not really in a hurry to sell it until probably like the summer, honestly. Just because I don't want to be having to move in the middle of my, the school semester.
No, that makes sense. And from the way you're talking, it doesn't sound like you've begun working with an agent out in Folsom. You've just kind of been checking out the market online, or what have you been doing so far? And are you working with someone?
I'm not working with anyone right now. I've just been kind of looking on Zillow and then a couple of other real estate websites that have information on houses that are listed. So I've seen some stuff that I'm definitely interested in, but because I hadn't started the process of selling my home, I wasn't ready to like go look at anything yet.
No problem. Well, that was probably wise. It's going to be one of those things with the market like it is, where you need to be strategic in how you do this. The great news is, if we decide to work together, I do work in Folsom and in Sacramento, and I can help you when we negotiate your sale of your home. As long as the market maintains being a seller's market, we should be able to negotiate something in with most buyers where you have an opportunity to look for a replacement property. There's actually a contingency that can be attached to the sale of your home that gives you time to look for another home and get yourself into contract there. Now, there's never a guarantee we're going to find what you want that quickly. So you may decide to do something different in the interim, but if that's really important to you and you decide to use me for both, I can help you negotiate that. Does that sound like something that would be important?
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great.
Okay, perfect. I'll make a note of that and we can talk further once we've met. Now, do you have any idea for what you think you would list your home for when we meet? Have you been looking on Zillow or talked to neighbors or seen anything sell around you that's giving you a number?
Yeah, well, I was planning on waiting to list the house until summer, but one of my neighbors was talking with me about selling an investment property that they had, and they said they got like 35,000 cash over with no contingencies just a week ago. So I thought now might be a good time to list my house. I would generally evaluate it somewhere between $550 and $650, I think, just off the top of my head, because we're in Sacramento. That's probably a little bit low because I know 2,300 square feet is a pretty sizable place around here.
It is actually. And again, I haven't seen the home yet, but my bet is you probably are going to be on the higher end of that, if not even a little better, based on what's going on in the market. But I will be running the numbers. Talk about that when we meet. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're very reasonable in your expectations. We'll put it that way. How much do you currently owe on the house?
I still owe about $400,000 on it.
Okay, perfect. And do you plan on interviewing more than one agent for the job of selling your home, or are you just meeting with me?
So I set up calls with, or contacted rather, 3 agents. I know that there's a ton of agents in the area. I wanted to be picky, so I found one on my own, and then I took a couple of referrals from friends. So you're one of 3 that I've talked to so far.
Okay, perfect. So since you're meeting with 3 of us, can you tell me who you're meeting with and when you've scheduled each of our meetings? I know
So you're the last person that I contacted. So you also called me the fastest. So thank you. But I'm working with Lisa Smarty Pants and Jennifer Cool Gal. So they're great agents.
All right, great. But neither one is with Coldwell Banker Realty, I see. So you picked different brokerages as well as some other agents to interview.
Yeah. That's what my friend recommended I do.
Okay, perfect. So thank you. And you've already met with both of them. So we just need to meet and you're going to make a decision. So tell me, what is the criteria you're planning to use to select the agent you work with?
I'm really just looking for an agent who either like knows their stuff or they're new and hungry. I'm hoping for someone that's going to be like a good negotiator, but is also really good at like relationships with people. I know that that's really important when it comes to stuff like this. So I want someone who's going to be in contact with me regularly, who's knowledgeable, and who has a plan to actually sell my house. So like having something on paper of this is when I'm going to do this and this is when I'm going to do that, so that I can know and be informed throughout the process.
Well, since you've already met with everyone else and I'm going to be your last meeting, and if I meet all of that criteria and answer all your questions to your satisfaction, will you be ready to list your home when we meet?
If you mean list by like, you show up and take pictures and it's online and ready to sell, like, no, not then, but like, I'd be ready to start the process. Yeah. If I were to meet with you and choose to use you as my agent, I would be ready to list at that point. Yeah.
Wonderful. So no, I would not put your house on the market the same night. Based on what you've told me, you already mentioned there's some cleaning up to do and some other things. But if you're ready to get started at that point, should you decide to work with me and I decide to work with you, we would do some paperwork and then we'll set the timeline to get the house on the market after doing a few of those things. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it sounds great.
Okay, perfect. I actually have some time available on Friday night. After you would be home from work, or I could meet with you on the weekend on Saturday afternoon. Which would be better for you?
Let's do Saturday afternoon. I have some plans tonight that I can't miss out on.
Oh, no problem. I understand. So let's say Saturday around 2:00. Will that work?
Could you do 3:00?
Absolutely. 3:00 works. So
yes. Yeah,
Saturday is 3. Whoops. Sorry. I can't scroll. Hold on, guys. I just messed up your screen. I'm getting. There it is. All right. So Keith, I do have some information I'm going to be dropping off today so that you can review it before our appointment. Now, I'm guessing that you're very busy based on everything that we've talked about. So if you're like most people, you have more things to do than the time to do them. So with that in mind, I'm going to ask you to do some homework. And you'll spend, I know it's going to sound like a lot, but somewhere between half an hour to 90 minutes reviewing the information I drop off prior to our 3:00 appointment Saturday. Now, if you do this, will you do that for me? Because it will make our appointment better. It will save us time. You will be able to conduct the best interview with me possible. You've already conducted your other interviews. And then let me explain what's in the package so you can ask me any questions now that might come to mind. So in the package, there are several items. It's divided into 3 categories. The first one is marketing and property exposure strategy. So in this section, you will find several items, including my marketing plan for your home, internet strategy, merchandising strategy, and other key tools to expose your home that frankly can't be matched by the competition. And I'm very excited to show that to you.
Okay.
The second category is the negotiation strategy. In this section, I outline 3 stages of successful negotiation. 1, setting the stage for successful negotiations. 2, negotiation objectives once we receive an offer, which I refer to as the ball in play phase. And 3, negotiating during the escrow. Because once you get into escrow, the negotiation does not stop. And we'll talk more about that when we meet. The negotiating concepts we use strive to secure the best terms possible for selling your home, and that you are receiving the highest level of fiduciary representation available with your interest in mind. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the third section is the transaction management strategy. Last but not least, it demonstrates the level of detail and scrutiny my team performs during the transaction. With the multitude of transaction documents, you mentioned earlier that years ago there weren't that many. Well, there are lots today. You're going to have fun with that. But we will help you manage that. And there will be many timelines to manage and checkpoints involved in the real estate transaction. We will oversee the minutia to ensure the entire escrow process is managed within the terms of the contract, and that your interests are protected and that the escrow runs smoothly.
Okay.
So remember, the job of an exceptional agent is threefold. It's marketing, negotiation, and transaction management, and you deserve nothing less. So I'll bring this by later today. If you're not home when I pop by to drop it off because you're still at school, do you want me to leave it somewhere on the front porch? Is there a better place?
No, on the front porch is fine. You can slide it under the mat unless it's raining.
Okay, and then what time are you usually home? Because if you're going to be home after 3 or 4, I could pop in and you could show me the home very quickly. I'd only have about 15 minutes, but that would give me an idea when I'm putting the pricing strategy together, you know, what we're working with.
Yeah, I might be home. I'm not totally sure. Some days I'm at the school until 5 or 6, and some days I'm back home by 4:30. So I can't really make a guarantee as to whether or not I'll be there. But you're welcome to ring the doorbell, and if I can get it, I'll let you in.
Awesome. Sounds good. If you're not there, I'll leave it on the porch. So I'll leave the package if we don't see each other, and I will see you on Saturday at 3 p.m.
Yes, sounds great.
I'm excited to work with you. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Right. Bye, Keith.
Click.
It is weird looking at the screen while I do this, I got to say. Anyway, hi, everybody. Let's take a soft share. So how many of you think I know some of you already do this. There's a lot of you on this call that do this regularly. How many of you think you could do this and do it well? John's going, I can. Who does it already? Who's on the call? Speak up. You can talk.
So Jennifer, this is Dorothy.
Hi, Dorothy.
Hi. I was just going to say something I noticed in your presentation, and I actually loved it, is you never once used the word if. You always yet made the assumption you guys were getting together on the appointment. And I think that's really cool. I didn't know that I always do that. And so I think that was really good. I enjoyed listening to your presentation like that. I don't know if I would have gone on, I just don't know if I would have on the phone, but I think if that's, then it would work. So
your audio's cutting in and out, but I got most of it. So I don't know how many of you have been through other classes on how to communicate when you're building these kinds of rapport, but you always want to be speaking to someone as if you're assuming you'll likely want to work together and you will be working together, not the if or any doubt. You don't want doubt to come through because that's not going to have you appear as the confident professional who believes that should you enjoy working with them, they'll want to work with you. There's always that chance you might choose not to work with somebody. I hate to say it, but I hear those stories. You know, you go on an appointment, by the time you're done, you're like, man, I don't want this listing. Doesn't happen often, but it does happen. So anybody else? I know a lot of you use pre-listing questionnaires. Would someone like to share what they do or anything different that you do that I might not have covered?
Actually, can I ask a question to sort of piggyback on that one? Just, did you have a strategic reason for not asking him why he hadn't already signed with one of the other agents?
Well, he wanted to meet with me, so I would assume he hadn't signed with the other agent. I haven't had someone do that and still have me come out.
No, I meant, did you ask him what they did wrong, like why they didn't close the deal while they were out there?
No, because if he didn't sign with them, there's a reason, right? He still wants to talk to me. That means he wasn't impressed enough to have signed with them is the way I look at it.
Okay.
And, you know, you've got to have enough confidence to go, if he still wants to meet with me, he's looking for something he didn't see yet or wondering if there's something better. So I would just take that approach. It's not common when I've done this for me to be calling to set an appointment and they've already had all their other interviews. I mean, it happens once in a while, but most of the time you're calling and they're in the midst of getting ready to meet with everybody. They might have met with one, but most of the time if they're interviewing multiple people and I'm making this phone call, at least my experience has been, they're getting ready to meet with people and they might have already scheduled the others or maybe they haven't. I mean, there are a lot of you on here who are very experienced. John, what's your experience in this area? I know you compete a lot for listings. You're on mute.
I know, I just don't know how to answer that.
You do have competitive listing appointments. I know we've talked about it.
Absolutely.
And when you call to make the appointment, have they already met with other people most of the time, or are they kind of in the midst of doing those things?
They're definitely in the midst. I've never been where I've been second or third or fourth.
And I don't know if Lee's still on the call. Lee, you do a lot of competitive listing appointments. Are you still on? I can't see who's all on here because I only can see so many faces at once. Let me look at the list. And many of you, I mean, tons of you on the call do lots of competitive listing appointments. I mean, I'm looking Patty Delgado, Joe Gibson. There's tons of you on here. I could go down the list. If you don't want to speak up, it's totally fine. But I just will say, if it's not perfect, the idea, did you get the idea you're trying to build rapport also, even though you're not face-to-face yet? You don't want to be so scripted. You want to follow the questions. That's why you're reading them. You don't want to miss any of those categories because can you see how they're positioning and helping you to figure out what you do when you get there? Yes, I'm getting lots of quiet. I'm assuming you do.
So Jennifer, do you have this do you have it like in your mind, the whole thing?
No.
Or do you usually, if you
Nope.
follow?
I totally read it, and I'm not the only one. If you talk to a number, now some of our listing agents are so solid, they've got it memorized. One of them, I won't say which one, but one of our top listing agents, she literally has every question on her pre-listing questionnaire memorized, and she goes in the same order every time. But most of us, I don't know about you, don't memorize that many things systematically without forgetting stuff if we get sidetracked. And my thing is, if you have the list in front of you, and again, if somebody calls when you don't have it in front of you, just say, hey, I need to call you back. I'm driving. If you really don't have it on the seat next to you, may I call you back at, and just set an appointment time to call them back. I have a few questions I need to ask prior to our appointment to assure I'm best equipped, to bring to the table what you're looking for and that we, work best together. And they're going to say that's fine. And you just set up a time to call them back, and you call them back at 4 o'clock or 2 o'clock or in 30 minutes. And then you get your list in front of you and you go through it. I would highly advise you not to try to wing it without the list. And I'll email it out to the office after this call. Many of you already have that version. Michael Crimmins, where are you from, Michael? I see you, but I can't hear you. You're mute. You know how to turn the mute? If you go to the microphone.
There I am.
There you go.
Actually, I'm new.
Oh, welcome. What office are you in?
Sacramento.
Oh, well, welcome. We're happy to have you.
Thanks. No, learning a lot. I'm taking a lot of classes. I've only been, born and raised in Sacramento. I've been in sales in some different spaces, but now just started about 2 months ago. So.
Awesome. Well, welcome. Glad to have you in the class.
Thank you.
Anyway, anybody else have questions? Because this particular class, this one is a very basic, hi, Destiny. Hello, she's driving. Careful. Don't do anything that causes you to, all you people who drive and turn your cameras on make me nervous. I'm always afraid somebody's going to be looking at the camera and hit something. Anyway, but you do it. I love seeing you. All right. Anybody else? Because we really don't have more to cover today. Next week's going to be a deep dive into the pre-listing packet. So for anybody who doesn't know what that is, the second step to a successful listing presentation process, if you really want to position yourself well, is to deliver something, whether it be electronic or physical, to that seller before the listing appointment, that in those 3 categories that I discussed at the end of the pre-listing questionnaire. And again, I'm going to send the pre-listing questionnaire out, and then we will have a sample of what this looks like next week, and we'll talk through it and talk through when you go to drop it off. Because if you're able to get them home when you drop it off, there are a few different schools of thoughts in this. Not everyone will agree. If you talk to 10 great listing agents, you're probably going to have some that say, I would never cross the threshold and go in that house before the listing appointment. I drop it at the door and I run. And then there are many, like myself and some others, that would say, oh no, I'd love to see the house before the listing appointment. But you just need to tell them that you're not there to do the listing appointment because you only have 10 minutes. You have another meeting you need to get to, but you would love to see their home for a few minutes so you have a better image of what we're going to be marketing and selling, so that when you show up to the appointment, you're better prepared to talk about pricing strategy and preparation of the home. Does that make sense? So I like that way. You just got to make sure you don't get into a commission discussion or anything else while you're touring the house. That's why some of the others don't like to go in, because often the seller will ask you questions at that point. If there's nothing else, you guys, I'm going to give you some time back. You're so quiet today. I'm not used to that. You're much more talkative on my weekly meeting. Yeah.
I have a question, Jennifer.
Okay, and who? Oh, Jennifer, Mary, hello. No, Mona, hi.
Oh, hi. So I went on a listing appointment, and the seller's agent, it was me and another agent, because this was my first listing appointment. So I needed some, what do you call it, morale booster. So she asked, one of the questions that the agent was with me asked was, have you thought about a price of where you see your home being listed? And the seller said, I don't want to answer that. I'd rather you tell me what you think.
I'm so glad you brought that up. When you do the pre-listing questionnaire, that was one of the questions on the pre-listing questionnaire, right? Do you have an idea where you want to list your house? And there are a percentage of people that are going to say things like that to you, or they're going to say, you're the professional. Why are you asking me? They will say things like that. No, that's fine.
What would you say to that?
You would basically say, well, I appreciate that, but what I do find is that regardless of what I come to the table with, most of my sellers have been on Zillow or online, or know something about maybe off-market sales or things that have happened in their neighborhood, and they have a preconceived notion of what they think they should be able to sell their home for. If you don't want to share it with me, I completely understand. It will not affect my recommendation coming to the table, but I would love to know where your head is at. Would you mind sharing that with me if anything like that is in your head, if you have any idea? And then usually at that point they'll go, oh, and some of them will tell you, and some will go, nope, I'd prefer we just wait till you get here. And it's fine. You've asked the question. The reason you're asking the question is if they will tell you, a lot of them will come in and go, oh, I think my home's worth, I'll throw one out, $1 million. $1 million. You're like, oh God, and you're going, holy shit, this house isn't worth more than we're being recorded.
Right.
Oh my gosh, this home isn't worth more than 700,000. I've got to be prepared for that conversation. Wouldn't you like to know that they are that out of touch with what their house is worth before you show up? And if they tell you that, you're prepared for that. You can psych yourself up. You can have the whole conversation ready before you sit down at the listing table with your recommendation and have them going, oh, no way, man.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, great.
John, how many times has that happened to you, John Gadevsky? We've talked about this. You're on mute. You're on mute.
It's happened more times than I want to even think about.
It happens a lot. So if you haven't asked the question in advance, you're potentially putting yourself at a disadvantage to not be prepared for how tough is that conversation going to be. It's not that you can't still handle it, but wouldn't it be nice to walk in knowing you're going to have to handle it? It just is, it's better to go in feeling confident and prepared, even if it still bugs you. You know what you're walking into. That's kind of the point of the whole pre-listing questionnaire. What if he said, oh, I sold a home 2 years ago and it was the most horrific experience of my life. Remember when I asked the question about have you sold a home before? And he says, you agents, I paid $20,000 in commission and I swear you guys are overpaid, but I don't want to do it by myself. So I'm still going to hire somebody. You want to know that. If he says something like that, his experience was not phenomenal. He probably did not have an exceptional agent. And he is only hiring someone because he doesn't feel comfortable doing it all alone as a FSBO, but he doesn't have the best attitude about who we are and what we do. Do you think most of the population places us in high regard and thinks we're worth what we're paid?
Heck no.
Destiny, I love that you came off mute on that one.
No.
We talk about this a lot. So our job, you can't take offense when they have that kind of reaction. You've got to be prepared for it, but you're asking these questions up front to try to ferret it out before you get there if possible, so you know what mindset you're dealing with, right? Does that make sense to everybody? All right, and again, they're going to view you in higher regard than the guy who doesn't do this questionnaire. You are going to look like that physician who's ready to give a diagnosis because you did your homework. I hope you all agree with that. And if you don't, you know, we are all entitled to our opinions, but my experience has been this is a very effective place to start. So happy to talk with anybody one-on-one. I see something in the chat. Let's see if there's anything else. You're welcome, Catherine. Is there anybody else who has comments or anything? We have a few minutes if you do. Happy to talk. Nope. All right.
I don't have as much experience as a lot of the agents here online, but I have noticed a lot of the sellers that I have talked to, they really love to be able to actually make that decision. So I sometimes just tell them that, you know, I am just, you know, the person that just gives my opinion on what I think, but the decision is theirs. And then I still try, like, towards the end to influence that, but at the same time, I always give them that feeling that it's their decision, because that really is something I feel in majority of times, something they want to hear. And they want to know that the decision is theirs. Like in my last listing, I just went online and she was saying, oh, what are people saying about what I listed my property at? And it's like, as she said it, I was actually a little shocked, because on this property, this facility, there had never, ever been anything that high. And I'm like, oh my God. But I did a lot of, you know, due diligence. I found out she was actually right on it. She was actually totally right. So a lot of sellers, I think, do their due diligence and know what their home is worth too, or know the market. So, which is not to be taken granted, you know.
No, but you're asking the question so you know what they think,
Yeah.
and you find out where they got their information, whether they've done their due diligence or if it's, you know, pie in the sky. And then when you go, you're right, Tara, you are going to be an advisor, but you are the professional and you have more data and more information than they do and more experience. So the idea is to give them your recommendation and be able to talk through the pricing, which we'll be doing on the future calls. And then in the end, you're right, it is up to them. Now it's also up to you if they're way out of line. Now in this market, it's not quite as scary because so many things are selling quickly. But if we were in a different market and somebody wanted to list $100,000 higher than what their home is worth, and we weren't in a seller's market, I'm telling you right now, many of you would probably make the decision to walk away from that, because you put a lot of money and time and energy into a listing. And if we're not in a market where it's going to sell, because the seller is being unreasonable with how it's priced or prepared or put on the market, I can tell you, there's a good percentage of people on this call that would say, I'm not going to do that. As much as I want this listing, I'm not going to do that. And they would walk away. So something to keep in mind, if you're not an agent who's ever done that, you don't want to get into a listing you can't sell and spend months and all your time and energy trying to do that, because that seller becomes dissatisfied and unhappy and frustrated. And it never ends up being their own fault in their mind when it doesn't sell. So anyway, my 2 cents. And Destiny, was that you?
No, I'm just saying, and when you do that, then it takes you away from other opportunities where you can actually make money.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. All right. Anybody else? I love this. You guys are actually talking to me. No? All right, well, I'm going to give you 5 minutes back, and I hope you enjoyed today, and have a wonderful day, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
And please make sure you log out of the meeting. I'm going to stop the recording now.
Thank you. Great class.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was great.
Jennifer.
Thanks,
Hey,
guys. I'll see you next week. Yes.
Jennifer, this is Tom Harvey. Can you stay
Hi.
on? I'd like to ask you a question.
Okay, about this, or can I just call you back in a minute?
Just call me back then, okay?
I'll call you back. Okay, call you right back.